You're listening to Comic Reflections, episode 312, coming to you from the Island Station Media Lab in Portland, Oregon. I'm Nicholas Prom.
And I'm a significantly less sweaty Kurt Lloyd than I was last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's broken. It's down in the mere 90s
Yes,
today.
the mere 90s.
Yeah. We're all right. We're not used to this. We're not baked potato people.
No.
We're like hobbits.
We got, yeah.
That's it? That's all you got to say?
Sorry, I was like, well, here's the thing. I was going to say, oh, we got the beards for it. Then I remembered hobbits don't have beards.
Hobbits don't have beards.
Yeah.
They have feet beards.
Feet. Yeah, there you go.
Feet beards.
Feet beards. I feel like that should be, that's like, there were the Proud Feet. That was another hobbit
right,
family.
and the Brandy Bucks.
Yep.
I don't know, I'm
Fool
just
of a
throwing
toque.
shit out.
Throw yourself in next time.
I will. Fabulous.
Okay.
What are we doing today?
Well, we have a guest in the studio today. It's Mitch Gillan, the owner, operator, proprietor of the Nerd Out bar and restaurant, the comic book themed spot here in Portland, Oregon.
Because Portland is the one and only place that would support it and keep it alive for more than 3 weeks.
Well, maybe San Diego.
You found it. Location, 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 brother.
In San Diego, it would last for like a week during Comic-Con and maybe a week before and week after. And yeah, I don't know.
It would be a pop-up. It would be a food cart.
It would be a food cart or a pop-up.
Well, I love it. I go there all the time. I was just there yesterday, as a matter of fact.
How would you make a comic-themed food cart?
I mean, you just...
Decoupage?
Yeah.
That's how I made a comic-themed bar and grill.
Decoupage?
Yeah.
Fab.
Yeah, it's wallpapered with a wonderful 4-color newsprint. And I love it. It's great.
My favorite part is, lest you think you will be ordering burgers and fries and things of that ilk, you should rethink that.
Yeah. They got,
the menu's fab.
It's dope.
Pork belly?
Oh, the Chale's pork belly?
That's my favorite.
It's maybe the best thing I've ever put in my mouth.
Do you like the app or the sandwich? Which one's the winner?
Well, here's the thing. The sandwich is delicious, but it's a little too much. I was very full. And then to add drinks to that.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe not. But the sandwich was fantastic. But I feel like just the pork belly by itself with a little bit of salad was just right.
Nice.
Because you don't want to be super full if you're going to be imbibing as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, the new incarnation of the menu, too, we've got a lot of, small plates and bites, so you can eat a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
But
also, for folks who've never been there, name some of the things on the menu. Don't describe them. Don't tell us what's in them. Name them.
Let's see. We've got steak skewers, spicy sweet chicken sticks. We've got deviled eggs. We've got broccolini salad with a fried egg, toasted corn, gooey spinach dip.
See, none of this sounds like a diner.
Yeah, no, it's great. But also, all the drinks are comic book or nerd themed. There's the one. It's not on the menu. But it's you can get it. It's the Superman Red and the Superman Blue, which I like to get. It's vodka and colored liqueur, and it's tasty.
I can't do that anymore.
Why?
No, I just can't. Iced tea for me.
Okay,
we have iced tea as well.
Okay.
And if you're lucky, I'll make you an Arnold Palmer if you come.
Oh, see there. Now I feel better.
You got to work on your golf game too, though.
Just got to get my nurse to wheel me in.
Okay.
And then I'll be set.
But I mean, as far as drinks, we've got everything from an Adam West to a Spider Manhattan to an Invader Zim, and the newest one's a Sailor Moon.
I had the Mr. Freeze yesterday. That's a good one too.
Oh, that's a special. It was really hot, so we made something with an otter pop in it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's great. Hey,
What'd
guys.
you bring us?
Oh, comic book wise?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about ROM #1 from back in '79. When first time I went into the Nerd Out, Mitch and I got talking about ROM, and I told him about the show. We were on hiatus at the time, but I said when I bring it back, I got to have you on, and we'll talk about ROM. So here we are.
Well, for me, ROM's really special too because
do tell.
My uncle who got me into everything nerd took me to my first Star Wars flick, started throwing me X-Men comics when I was a kid. He was like, ROM is legit. You need to read ROM.
ROM is too legit to quit.
Yeah. Well, for 70-some issues, right?
75 issues, 4 annuals, and several guest appearances in other books like The Hulk and Power Man and Iron Fist.
Well, that was one thing interesting when I was researching this a little bit. Like, I didn't know that ROM came from a Parker Brothers toy that was failing. I mean, I knew there was the toy, but I didn't know they created the comic because of it. But supposedly ROM, unlike Transformers or G.I. Joe, was the only character created from a toy that made other appearances in comics. At least that's one thing I was reading.
How do you mean other appearances?
Like would do crossover guest appearances in like X-Men.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Spider-Man showed up in Transformers, but I think that was kind of the exception.
Yeah.
But they didn't show up in Spidey, like that kind of thing, or the Avengers, which I'm kind of glad. It gets complicated. But yeah, ROM, Parker Brothers approached Marvel Comics. Can you do a comic book tie-in and help us promote this toy? The toy failed miserably. But the comic was a hit, and it ran for 6.5 years.
Yeah.
And it's loads of fun. And here we go with issue number 1.
Marvel folded this into their expanded cosmic universe.
Oh, yeah.
They folded ROM as the character into kind of the Nova Corps, the story of the Nova Corps and all that. They weaved it in. And now IDW owns the property.
Yeah.
How do you untangle all that?
Well, here's the deal. IDW is doing a really lousy new ROM series. It sucks ass. Sorry, folks. It's true. But the concepts that Bill Mantlo created, like to flesh out like the story of the Space Knights and stuff, Marvel can still use the Space Knights and the Diorites. They just can't use ROM or Brandy Clark or any of these other characters. Actually, they're probably fine with Brandy Clark, but they can't use ROM. ROM belongs to Parker Brothers and is licensed to IDW. But it's just like a similar thing with the Micronauts. Some of those characters that also Bill Mantlo created for the series, like Bug, Marvel can still use and still does, but Croyer and so on cannot. It's tricky with licensed stuff.
Well, let's find out what Bill Mantlo did with this one.
All right. So ROM number 1, cover dated December of 1979, but according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, it went on sale September 4th, 1979. Cover art penciled by one Frank Miller, inked by Joe Rubinstein. I'm still waiting for Frank Miller's The Space Knight Returns.
I'd read it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But the story in this issue is called Arrival, written by boisterous Bill Mantlo, with art penciled and inked by our pal Sal Buscema. Cool splash page. Do we want to talk about this cover, though, before we get into the story?
I did not know until just now that it was Frank Miller. It's uncredited. There's no signature. There's no FM on this cover that I can find. And obviously, when I look at it now, I can totally tell it's Frank Miller.
Yeah.
Pretty pedestrian. Not as exciting as I would, I think a modern comic with a, here I am defending modern comics over the Bronze Age.
Right.
But I'm saying a modern comics cover, first appearance of a giant space robot with a big gun, seems like it would be a bit more dynamic than what's portrayed.
It's a pretty generic cover. There are some great covers throughout the run of ROM. This is a serviceable one. And for a first issue, for like the first time we see a character in comics, it'll do. Obviously, the art director approved it.
There is something I kind of like about it, that it's just got kind of that like 50s, late 60s feel with all the people in horror underneath by this giant robot. Kind of a, for lack of a better, like an Ultraman standing above them.
I mean, really, when we get into the story, it has shades when ROM shows up in the small town of Clairton, West Virginia. It kind of has shades of The Day the Earth Stood Still. Like ROM really comes across like Gort. A talking Gort.
Yeah.
I also got some Iron Giant out of this. A lot of Iron Giant.
I've never seen this Iron Giant.
You have never seen Iron Giant?
Yeah.
Wow.
We might just have to stop right
Yeah.
now. Come back next week when you've seen Iron
Is it
Giant
really
start all over
that
again.
big a deal? I mean, like,
if you don't cry during Iron Giant, you're not really a person.
well, I've never seen it, and I think it came out like I was in my adolescence. I'm like, I'm done with all that baby stuff, And so I just never saw it.
Well, it is a story that's been around a lot longer than, that film is just the latest iteration of that. Black Sabbath's Iron Man is written about the story of the Iron Giant. Pete Townsend did a musical about the Iron Giant. But it's been around even longer than just the few decades that I rattled off.
Oh, okay. So I've totally just missed this thing.
Story about an iron giant from space that crashes on Earth, and much like the Frankenstein monster, in his fright does some damage, and the people of Earth hate him, but there is one person there, a small child, that befriends him and sees the compassion within the robot and draws it out for humanity. And in the end, and I'm not going to give away the end of ROM because that's not how it ends here. But in the end, the robot sacrifices himself for humanity.
Wow.
In an act of contrition and selflessness.
Wow. Is this like a Don Bluth movie? Because that's
it's fabulous. Yeah. It's really, really well done.
Oh, well, then I
That
need to see
version
it.
is.
If it's a Don Bluth, then I need to see it.
Yeah.
I'm such a Philistine. I just ignored it. And I have never...
Go back. You'll really enjoy it.
Okay.
I'll bet you a Superman red and blue.
Okay.
If you don't like it, I'll buy you one.
Oh, see, now I'm just going to lie. But no. Okay, I need to see the Iron Giant. But in the meantime, why don't we talk about this issue of ROM?
Sorry.
It's okay. I think the splash page really is far more dynamic than the cover.
Yeah, and generally, Sal Buscema to me is John Light. Like their styles look so much alike in the way that they draw faces and hands. They're very obviously kind of learned from the same sources or one another. But Sal never was somebody that measured up to John's work, at least.
I love the Buscemas, and Sal definitely like the lesser of the two. But I still really like Sal's stuff.
Yeah, I can't say anything bad about him.
Yeah.
I can just say you're right, lesser of the two.
Yeah. I mean, like I've enjoyed him on Avengers. Wasn't he the artist on Englehart's run on Captain America?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I can't say 100%.
Yeah.
I believe so.
He did some really great Conan books.
Oh,
and
that's John Buscema. Did Sal touch Conan?
He
Because
did.
I remember
He did
John
a short
Buscema
run.
doing tons of
May
it.
very well have.
Okay.
And then he worked on-
Savage Sword. I think I've read a couple stories in Savage Sword that Sal did.
Okay.
And then he worked on Cole too.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
After John Severin, obviously. Okay. Cool. See, I'm learning all kinds of stuff all the time.
John Severin, another comic book sibling.
Yes, brother to Marie Severin, her career. Both of them go way back to EC Comics in the 50s.
I feel like I grabbed the wheel more than once and just gone left. So go ahead and correct us. Let's get us back to the splash page because you're right. It is dynamic.
Yeah. Rom and his quest to destroy the Dire Wraiths. Anyway, he crashes on Earth. Why does he crash if he was looking for them? It's kind of weird, right?
Well, it looks like he shows up like in a asteroid or something like that. Like maybe a bunch of stuff is stuck to him to protect him as he's traveling across space.
Travel via asteroid. Okay. Asteroid's the only way to travel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he lands on the road. He's hanging out. Car comes speeding towards him. And who's driving that?
It's Brandy Clark,
What do you know?
who will be our human POV for the bulk of the series. Rom meets Ms. Brandy Clark. He stops her car, like from going off a cliff, right?
Yeah.
Or off the guardrail. He scans her with the energy analyzer, knows she's not a Dire Wraith, but Rom hasn't said a word to her yet. He fires up his rocket pods and flies away.
The energy analyzer
Yeah.
was my favorite part of the ROM toy.
Did you have the Rom toy?
I had the ROM toy. They were like 11 inches, I think.
It's pretty big.
They were pretty big. And then he had this blaster. So if you don't have a copy of ROM number 1 in front of you and have never seen the toy, the blaster is almost like a Lego thing in that instead of coming out to a barrel, it comes out to a flat, like square plate-like surface, and then in front of that is a glowing red rectangle.
Right.
And so on the toy, it would light up. When
Right.
you press a button, it would light up. And that's what he's carrying in the comic.
Because ROM has 3 accessories. The energy analyzer, which allows him to determine who's a Dire Wraith and who's not. The neutralizer, which is the energy weapon you just described, which banishes the Dire Wraiths to limbo. and the translator device that he also has. And it's cool because he stores these in like a subspace, like a pocket dimension, so he doesn't have to carry all the shit around with him all the time.
I love it, and I love that the non-lethal, completely non-lethal.
Yeah, except Limbo sucks ass.
Sure, but kids' toys in the 70s, still selling a lot of cowboy and Indian gear. And
yeah. Well, yeah.
Little lumberjack hatchet set.
Yeah, but science fiction, I think it's interesting that he this is the way ROM operates. It's fun.
It's funny too because like in the next couple panels or maybe next couple pages, everyone refers to it as a death ray. Like they all think, oh, he's using the analyzer. Oh no, it's a death ray. Like,
well, right, but small town America,
Yeah, giant robots show up once every 6-8 months.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Sometimes it's a death ray, sometimes it's not.
Right.
Sometimes it's an analyzer.
Yeah. So ROM just strolls into Clairton, West Virginia, and people are freaking out. But he's there looking for diaries. He has not said a word. He scans the area with the analyzer, finds the diaries, a couple of them, and neutralizes them. Now, to everyone around, it looks like ROM has just killed 2 people they know and then bailed.
Yeah, because I mean, it's kind of like an body snatchers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think Brandy even says, like, you killed my old friends. Like,
to ROM, he sees when he points the analyzer at him, he sees them for the dire race that they are. And when he fires the neutralizer, their corporeal forms ash out as they get sucked into limbo. So it looks for all the world like, he has mowed them down with a big old laser and burned them into a pile of ash.
Yeah. It's very War of the Worlds. You remember the Gene Barry version?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Love that movie.
And this is where I first got the hint of Iron Giant.
Okay.
Yeah, go see it.
Okay.
yeah, rent it tonight.
Okay.
Don't come back to the nerd out till you have.
Okay.
Okay, you can come back anytime.
Okay, thank you. So it's funny, though, because, Brandy's freaking out because, again, you've killed people I know. The mayor tries to get the governor on the horn. There's a robot monster killing people in my town, and they won't take his call, but they think he's drunk. Now, they don't establish it in this issue, but this takes place in the Marvel Universe, where giant robots are a dime a dozen. Why is that so implausible?
Because generally they show up in Manhattan.
Okay.
And not in the middle of, where are they, Ohio?
West Virginia.
West Virginia, sorry.
Well, and
not in the
most-
middle of West Virginia.
I don't know if it's still today, but at this time, most West Virginian mayors were drunk at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind
Hey,
of true.
Cooter!
That's kind of true.
Oh, yes. But, I figure, you remember a series that Marvel had going at about this time, like US 1 and Team America, right?
Absolutely, I do.
Don't you, as those guys were traveling across the states, didn't they encounter robots and some such?
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Route 66, the old TV series, where they would just occasionally get on the wrong side of the local police. No.
Right.
Yeah. Mopping up robots while you're driving a convoy of big rigs.
Yeah. Because we got a big old convoy trucking through the night.
So at the bottom of this page, we were introduced to a character named Clara, who you don't think much of, but she's got that harsh librarian bun.
Yeah, the evil librarian. bun.
She is the telephone operator of the town, and she's also a dire wraith, along with a trio of other assholes. One of whom is a policeman.
Well, I just assume, until proven otherwise, that most police officers are dire wraiths.
We agree.
Even the ones I like.
That's right. The fuzz are dire wraiths.
I don't discriminate.
It's a very We Live kind of situation. Remember that movie?
They live?
They live. What did I say? We live. They live.
Now I'm questioning you. Let me get my sunglasses, my special sunglasses.
Right.
No Iron Giant and We Live.
I love They Live. I have seen They Live multiple times.
Strike 2. Can we get through this book
I just said
without
we live in.
you being banished to the street outside?
I misspoke, and now you're going to accuse me of not having seen.
Gonna yank your
They
nerd
Live.
cards, huh?
Wow, I'm going to get kicked off my own show. Hey, what's going on with Rom and the diarates and Brandy?
He's still got Brandy kind of cornered out in the woods after doing the
He
escape.
turns on his translator and he says, "Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be." No, what he really says is, "Do not fear." He waited all this time to finally speak up, and now he's going to explain to her the whole schmear about the dire wraiths hidden in plain sight, and he's here to kill the crap out of them.
Before we get to the explanation, I'm going to his monologue is great.
Okay.
Actually, it's a dialogue because she has a line. She was panicking. He said, "Those neutralized were not humans." She says, "You're mad. I've known those 2 men for years. I went to high school with one of them." To which Rom sets up a huge story by saying, "Nonetheless, they only appeared to be human that they might dwell unsuspected among your race. They are the enemy I seek, the dire wraiths. Listen, woman of Earth, and perhaps you will understand after I tell the legend of the Spaceknight." That's going to have an echo. I'm putting an echo on that.
Now, when he says "woman of Earth," don't you think like, "Prepare me a sandwich while I tell you the tale"?
I thought that as I said it.
Okay. Although Rom doesn't have a mouth for sandwich eating. Do you just put it through one of the slots in his chest there? Or?
He might eat like RoboCop. Might have to be pureed first, or
Okay.
He might have an attachment for his gun.
Yeah, I wonder, like, what is Rom's power source? Is it like star energy or something?
D-cell battery.
Okay. Was that what it was in the toy?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Very good. So, well, yes, Rom's going to tell us all about the legend of the Spaceknights. And I'll give you all the Reader's Digest version of this. So, back on the planet of Galador, the fine folks were a peaceful, spacefaring race, and they were traveling the cosmos, spreading technology and philosophy. They were not warlike. But they encountered these assholes, the dire wraiths, who were the complete opposite of them. And they're also space wizards.
They live in the dark nebula.
Yeah, shape-shifting space wizards.
I so wish Jim Starlin had done this book.
Yeah. I mean,
If I love Bill Mantlo.
yeah.
But if he had just taken his outline and his notes and handed it to Jim and go, "Finish that for me," that would have been really cool.
So as a trade-off, would you have been fine to have Starlin doing Rom and not have ever had, now I'm going to blank on, what was that?
Warlock?
Not Warlock, his 80s book. You know the one I'm talking
Dreadstar.
Dreadstar, thank you.
100%. I would love a Starlin Rom over Dreadstar any day of the week.
Okay, that we are going to put that on your tombstone, along with the cheese and pepperoni.
And Jim Starlin once a year will come and pee on my gravestone.
Okay.
I hear he's that kind of guy.
Okay,
No, I'm sure he's a nice fella.
sure.
I don't have anything bad to say about him.
No, he's good. He's got a lot of talent.
Just a jerk. I just say things.
now,
It's okay.
did the Dark Race? I mean, do they remind you of Skrulls a little bit? But they're not as bumbling.
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's the
the
same
shape shifting is similar to the Skrulls. I think initially they wanted to have something unique to the property, rather than have Rom just be fighting an already established Marvel thing. They probably had maybe thought maybe we won't integrate into the Marvel universe just yet.
Yeah, I'm certain.
Yeah, and I think the name Dire Wraiths were in in the pitch. Have you ever watched that Rom the Toy Fair pitch video?
I haven't.
It's fantastic, and the dire wraiths are mentioned in that. So they had the skeletal concept there, and then Mantlo fleshed it out. So Mantlo didn't come up with the name dire wraiths. That's still Parker Brothers. But
Well, in this, they're sending an armada in to intercept the dire wraiths in the Dark Nebula, and they do not understand that they're being set up and ambushed. And midway through this battle, it says, "The last message received from the Galadorian armada told of a dark force of a horrible, omnivorous shape that blocked out the stars even as it hopelessly shattered the defense sphere, exposing the armada to the Wraith warships. Yet rather than attack our helpless armada, the enemy ships fled themselves in abject horror from the creature of their own creation. There was no salvation in flight for the Galadorians. The creature enveloped their ships, filling their hearts with horror, their souls with a numbing darkness, even as the chill vapor of its breath stripped the very flesh from their bones.
And there is a panel of the Galadorians out in space, like dead and in torment, or dying and in torment, and it's horrific.
Yeah, I'm glad it's a tiny panel.
Yeah. So we cut back to Galador, and what is their leader, the Pan-Galactic Inquisitor or whatever, the Prime Director, who has supervillain hair.
He does. He looks fantastic. He looks like the
Collector.
third brother between the Collector and the Gamesman Master.
Yeah, absolutely. But so they're like, well, we're in trouble, gang, and we're not a warlike race. What are we going to do? But so they've got to raise some kind of an army to fight the dire wraiths.
Fortunately, this leader has Moses on his side.
Oh yeah, hey Moses, what's up?
And it's not Moses.
It's not Moses Magnum.
No, not Moses Magnum. No, this is legit, straight up Moses.
Yeah, Moses Magnum looks like that guy from Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Which guy from Earth, Wind, and
The
Fire? Because he looks like
balding-
4 guys from Earth, Wind, and Fire.
You know what I mean? The one with the male pattern baldness, but still had the afro.
Oh, I'm in. I totally know who you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I
I
don't-
had one of those in the Commodores, too. And maybe I should rephrase that sentence. There was a gentleman that looked like that in the Commodores as well.
Oh yeah,
Go back.
phrasing.
Snip.
Sorry.
That's on me.
Yeah. I just feel bad for the whole situation. But the first of the Galadorian youth to volunteer to sacrifice his humanity,
Conan.
sort of. Conan without muscles and plus a shirt, a young man named ROM. And it's crazy. Like, Galadorians volunteer by the millions, but only a few are selected to become the Space Knights. And under
So let me get this straight. He was the first to volunteer, and his kind of breaking the seal of volunteering it swept up, and millions of people came in behind him to volunteer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So what a guy, that ROM.
Way to go, Rom.
And then turns out he's the greatest of all of them.
Yeah.
Actually, he's the only one who survives, right?
No, there are other Space Knights. Oh, as the series progresses, there was a backup series of like Tales of the Space Knights, like during their like war out
yeah.
in space. See, it's coming back to
But
you now.
didn't Tales of the Space Knight, didn't that come out, or isn't in the timeline that before this?
Yeah, but there are still other Space Knights.
Okay.
ROM's not the last of them.
So they're volunteering for this elite force of Galadorians that's going to fight off the dire wraiths in the Dark Nebula.
I got a quote that I gotta.
Please.
This is amazing. It says, "It was cold under the laser knives of the surgeons. We lay on the slabs meant for healing and watched our humanity grafted bit by bit onto an unfeeling suits of armor."
Cybermen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. They're being grafted into these Space Knight suits, never to be human again. They're the circuitry, the cybernetics, the AI, all that stuff is grafted into who they are.
Yeah. Well, what's cool is they can travel space just in these suits. They don't need spaceships. You can be a human spaceship. Join the Space Knights.
How many times can you crash into the surface of a planet, though?
Your mileage may vary. I don't have a real answer for that. I don't think that's a real question.
I thought he crashed into the Earth in the first page.
Yeah, but okay, you can do it at least once. More than once.
How about tune-ups? Are there mechanics for these suits?
Well, maybe they're self-repairing.
Does he have GPS?
Probably. Space GPS.
Space GPS.
So Space Global?
Where does
Oh,
he,
it's galactic positioning
positioning
system. Yeah.
Where does he pee?
In your face.
Oh no.
Recycled.
Yeah.
Recycled.
And then it's
into fuel.
shot out of an adapter that plugs on the end of his gun.
Or maybe it's like the still suits from Dune.
Yeah, sure.
Where it
Recycled into
you-
fresh water.
You pee-pee and poo-poo into fresh water and yummy snacks. So you can survive the cold, unforgiving chilliness of outer space.
All hail Frank Herbert.
Yeah.
All right, so they finally make this entire battalion of Space Knights and they send them into the Dark Nebula.
And they kick the crap out of the Dire Wraiths.
Do they ever?
Yeah. And so ROM, they are on a genocidal mission to kill all the Dire Wraiths.
Like all of them. They decide, there's no way this poison's going to end in the universe until we wipe out every last one of them.
Well, send them all to Limbo, which is basically the Phantom Zone, which, as we know, is shitty.
Wouldn't that be great if it was the Phantom Zone? The Dire Wraiths would come into contact with Zod and
Cruel and Namek,
Oh, it'd be
all
fantastic.
those fabulous assholes.
That's the crossover book we need to pitch.
Let's do it. So we get DC and IDW, ROM and Superman.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm into it.
So
Let's
am
get
I.
Bendis to write it because the guy that's writing the new ROM book sucks.
This sounds like a Mike Allred book.
Yeah, I'd love to see him draw that. That'd be so fun. Hey, folks, we're going to take a quick promotional break, but we'll be back with the rest of this ROM story. Stick around.
Guys, we finally developed our time machine. Should we use it to go back and see how Stonehenge was built?
Or become friends with Hitler and convince him to stay in art school.
Or we could go back in time and get the comic books we missed. Yeah!
The Comic Book Time Machine. A journey back in time to explore comic books. Good and bad. Whether from 7 decades ago or 7 days ago. Join our journey at comicbooktimemachine.com.
Can I get a tall chai?
And a large black coffee.
And I suppose you're here with no agenda, as per usual?
On the contrary, I'm here for comics.
I think I can help all of you. Hello, I'm the caffeinated Clinton Robinson, and I host a podcast called Coffee and Comics. On this podcast, I summarize, review, and discuss comic book issues, stories, and related media, usually in the span of time it takes to have a cup of coffee. Sometimes I'm joined by a guest, and sometimes I'm flying solo. So pour the coffee, take a sip, and turn up the volume as you listen to the Coffee and Comics Podcast. Available on iTunes, Stitcher, and directly on coffeeandcomicspodcast.blogspot.com. And remember, this is where the comics are never too old and the coffee is never too cold.
And we're back. So that's about the end of Rom's recollections of the war with...
Rom was the one, by the way, that fired the fatal shot that killed off the commander of the Dire Wraiths, of this Dire Wraith armada that they went in to get. So
he's like chasing out down the remnants of this defeated enemy.
And he says, our mission cannot truly be said to be over until the last of the Dire Wraiths has been hunted to the very ends of the galaxy and cast into limbo. Only when we have fulfilled our mission will our quest be over. Only then may we reclaim our lost humanity. Does this mean that if he wipes out all the Dire Wraiths, that they can somehow turn him back into a Galadorian?
Yes.
Is that intimated or is that actually stated?
I think that's what happens in issue 75, the last issue of the book.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. The Butler did it. I spoiled the whole series
Spoilers
for everyone.
for 4 years later when we've done all of them. But for a book that's been over for 30 years. This is our hero, the genocidal...
Yeah, but essentially he's hunting down leftover Nazis.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I get it.
Nazis,
He's being
sorcerers.
genocidal with the right guys.
I mean, don't get me wrong, they're evil pieces of shit, but yeah, you're wiping out a whole race. Well, I mean, wait, he's not killing them though. They are going to limbo.
Yeah, he's just putting them in prison.
Yeah, okay. All right.
He doesn't. His primary quest is an objectivist principle, but he doesn't. He has all the failings of any other human being. He's got kind of the gray area, so he doesn't live up to the objectivist ideal. Mm-hmm. Very difficult for me to think that he would be so dogged and single-minded and dismissive of his primary genocidal quest. Yeah. But then still be caring and compassionate, and it's really that's a struggle to write a character that divided.
Not is there ironically or unironically, Steve Ditko took over on art in the latter part of this series, just on art. But maybe was definitely the man for the job.
Oh, so he finishes telling his story, and almost immediately he's subjected to gunfire. Lots and lots of gunfire, just tinking off of him left and right.
Oh yeah, tanks coming up, and then they fire on him, and then because Rom is there with Brandy. Then they say, "Hey, there's our man from Mars. Okay, don't fire again because he's got the girl there." Well, wait a second. Why'd you fire if you knew she was there?
Were they firing at her?
Well, no, but she was right there with him.
How do you know they weren't firing at her?
Collateral damage.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay.
There could be, there's a lot of subtext in
Okay.
books like these. Not nearly as much as I'd like to put in them, but
So the shells don't do shit.
Yeah.
I mean, they just bounce off of them. So down in one of these panels, the guy goes, "Shells have no effect on it. But what about flame?" And Rom's like, "Fuck that." It's like, "I have flown near stars, humans. Your pale, pitiful fire cannot harm me."
And it doesn't. So Rom's picking up tanks and smashing the crap out of these guys.
and he has decided, by the way, he pulled out his energy analyzer in the midst of this fight because he decided that the reason they found him so quickly was that they had to have dire wraith technology.
Yeah,
that was the only way they could find a giant robot that obviously has an energy signature.
Right. So he's talking down to us the whole time. Because oh, no humans could have done this. It had to be dire wraiths. So, and he does find out the dire wraiths. He destroys all this equipment. One of the dire wraiths pulls some wraith weapon and fires on Rom. They finally hurt him. And then Rom wipes him out with the neutralizer. Again, it looks like he destroyed an American soldier.
Yeah, ashes out of body while sending the spirit into the limbo.
Yeah. And as Brandy goes for this this wraith weapon to as proof to look, this guy Rom's on the level. She's grabbed up by 3 of the dire wraiths, who Rom then wipes out with the analyzer. Brandy's unharmed, or excuse me, with the neutralizer. My bad.
Does he? And I don't see it here, but he's got the attachments. Are they all on the gun at the same time? Does he pop it off and pop the new one back on?
No, each of his accessories he pulls from subspace. They're like in a pocket dimension that he can just get any old time. So it's between the panels.
Yes, but between the panels, is he actually retrieving this thing and snapping it on the gun, snapping the other one off, throwing it in the pocket dimension?
No, I think it's like he teleports it into his hand.
Oh.
Okay,
That's a guess on your part.
No, okay. I'm no prize in it, okay? This is what you're asking me to do.
I am. I am. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing something.
Okay.
That this isn't just Nicholas conjecture.
Okay. Okay, who's
my least favorite Christmas icon, by the way, Nicholas conjecture.
Thank you. Okay, later in the 80s, there was an animated series called The Centurions, Man and Machine, Power Extreme. Okay, and they had an orbiting satellite.
Sing it.
What? I don't remember how the song went.
You remember the words, you don't remember the tune?
I don't, sorry.
Do you remember the tune, Mitch?
I don't.
Can we carry on with my
go
story?
ahead, I'm sorry.
So anyway, they had the orbiting satellite where their gal who helped them teleported their weapons onto their suits from outer space. So I'm thinking it's working on a similar concept of Rom just teleports it into his hand from subspace. This is just in a little pocket room in another dimension that he just snaps his oven mitt hands and they appear.
He does have metal oven mitt hands.
They're mittens. And I love them. But, okay, so one of the dire wraiths escapes. It's the librarian...
Clara,
the telephone operator. She bails on... Rom splits, doesn't say anything to Brandy. And she's like, you didn't even say thank you or nothing.
He just takes off. He says, "This sector is cleansed of the dire wraiths, but my quest goes on," and then he's gone.
Yeah. Never mind, there was still another dire wraith in town, but she turns into a raven and then flies out the window. Rom is kind of a dick, but we love him anyway. And that's really the end of the issue.
I don't know that he's a dick. I think he's got a personality disorder.
Okay. Where do you put him on the DSM-4?
Oh, I would probably. I don't know that he's as bad as, say, borderline personality disorder.
I mean, I think
he certainly has a dismissive attachment syndrome.
I mean, it's a culture clash. You know, like he thinks he's probably as just polite as any old Galadorian would be, but it comes across as just kind of inconsiderate to others. I mean,
like the French.
Okay. I mean,
enjoy the comments section.
But but he is, very single-minded in his quest to wipe out the dire wraiths.
I just feel like he's a man on a mission.
Okay.
And, he ain't got time for love.
Yeah.
No
time for love, Dr. Jones.
Yeah.
Or Rom.
Or Rom.
However,
yeah.
The story says right here, next month, don't miss it, by love betrayed.
Well, we got to find out what that's about.
We're going to come back for Rom too, or I have to do this at home?
Well, I mean, we could do both. We could come back and do more Rom.
I'll just do it at home.
I mean, I'll read it, but because I don't think I have that one yet. I have about 2/3 of the series. I'm putting the run together. But I would not be opposed to revisiting Rom in the near future.
How long did Bill Mantlo run on this book?
The entirety of the series.
All 75 issues, which
4 annuals
is
as well.
6 moving into 7 years.
Yep, 6 years, 4 months.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then how long after he wrapped on this did he have his accident?
Ooh, he had his accident in, I think it was 1982.
Okay.
I think that's right.
All right. So there's probably 6 years in there where he was knocking out Guardians and...
Yeah. Well, and you know what? By the late 80s, he was transitioning. He became like a law clerk. He became like a lawyer. He was moving into that because he really wanted to be a public defender and help people. And then he had his accident. And folks who want to help, Bill Mantlo had a traumatic brain injury, a hit-and-run driver while he's rollerblading. Folks who want to help Bill Mantlo, because he does require 24-hour care, you can contact his brother Michael Mantlo on Facebook, and you can donate to assist.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best personal causes that a comics fan could be a part of.
Oh, absolutely.
Hero Initiative. We're fans and frequently help with Hero Initiative.
Yeah,
this is one of those type of stories. But if you don't know the Bill Mantlo story, for a long period of time, his care, the private care that he was receiving, was really woeful. He was just kind of shut up in a small, dingy little room, and
but now his brother takes care of him, and he's he's there with the family.
That's that Guardians money.
Yeah, Marvel has there's a non-disclosure agreement, so they can't tell how much Marvel has helped, but Marvel has helped. It's not fully taken care of. Otherwise, I wouldn't be pleading for hey, help Mantlo out. But it's you guys ever enjoyed ROM or the Micronauts or the Spectacular Spider-Man or the Hulk in the 80s?
That's the guy.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
So, they created Cloak and Dagger and Rocket Raccoon.
He created Rocket Raccoon?
That's right. He first appeared in an issue of the Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then had his own limited series. Yeah. You like all that stuff, folks? Talk to Michael Mantlo. See what you can do to help Bill out.
Yeah, find him on Facebook, and he's got all sorts of ways that you can contribute your money or your time.
Yeah. Hate to end on a down note, but maybe optimistic.
Well, he's getting the care that he needs right now.
Yeah.
And he's in a much better place, and he's with family, and all things considered, I think it's a pretty positive note.
I think
there's a lot of hope in that story.
The best of that, I think he's, what do I say? He's in the best position he can be in his situation.
Talking about him now, I feel like I should apologize to Sal Buscema.
How so?
I don't mean to say that he's a lesser talent. He's a fine talent on his own.
I love Sal Buscema. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be great if John drew this book, because it'd be awesome.
Well, don't you want John Buscema to draw every book?
Most of them.
Yeah.
Except the ones that Jim Aparo drew.
Yeah. You know, this is a tangent, but in the 70s, DC came very close. They had a deal. They almost brought John Buscema over because he never worked for them, not once.
Can you imagine giving him Superman in the late 70s or giving him Action Comics in the late 70s?
Well, you don't have to imagine it because if you read the second Superman and Spider-Man Treasury edition, Buscema drew Superman in that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Oh,
So that's like your one time you get to see him draw a DC character.
I'm gonna have to get another copy of it. Mine's long gone.
Yeah. It's just like a dream of seeing Jim Aparo draw Marvel characters.
Can you not find that anywhere? Is that not a thing? I
not
never
a-
thought about
That's
that.
not a thing. A lot of people went back and forth, but there are certain artists who were only at one place.
I'll bet there are commissions out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be commissions.
I'm going to do
out
some
there.
Google image searches, but I'll tell you what, if you're listening to this show and you find a commission that Jim Aparo drew a Marvel Comics character, send it to the show.
Yeah.
What's an email address I can send something to?
comic.reflections@gmail.com.
All right, fantastic.
Okay.
Mitch, did you have a good time?
I had a great time.
Mitch, we had a great time having you.
Hey, if you guys ever want to come do this live at the Nerd Out, I mean, anyone listening, this is what we do. We sit around and we talk about comic books.
Yeah.
And we don't shame people as much publicly for not seeing Iron Giant or...
We'll make an exception with you every time.
Wow. Okay. I guess I got to fix that.
And if you live in or around or are visiting Comic Book Central, the lovely Portland, Oregon, be sure to go say hi to Mitch at the Nerd Out. Mitch, where can they find you?
We're at 3308 Southeast Belmont, right on the corner right there. We're open every day but Mondays from 4 to 11 and 12 on the weekends. Come read some comics with us. We do movie nights, trivia nights, have a comic book library, plenty of toys to play with, killer food, killer drinks.
Great place for families to drop in, nerd out together.
Yeah.
And then there's also a bar there, so in the evenings, entertainment takes a little turn and everybody has a good time.
Yeah.
Folks, find Comic Reflections on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, and Google Play. Follow us on Twitter at Comic Reflection, or follow me on Instagram at PromCakes. Until next time, we'll see you in the funny pages.
Are you a fan of Doctor Who? How about comics? If you're a fan of both, then Doctor Who Panel to Panel is for you. This podcast looks in depth into the long history of Doctor Who comics, from the 1960s kid-friendly strips to today's present comics from Titan Comics and Doctor Who magazine. I review stories old and new, featuring classic doctors like Tom Baker and John Pertwee, to the 12th Doctor himself, Peter Capaldi. I also interview the creators behind the stories, from authors such as Paul Cornell to artists like John Ridgway and Lee Sullivan. I also talk to production people such as Titan Comics editor Andrew James and Doctor Who magazine editor Tom Spilsbury about their career and work on these great comics. Check out Doctor Who Panel to Panel on iTunes, Facebook, and download episodes direct from DoctorWhoComics.com.
Hey kids, do you like comics?
Uh-huh.
Do you like Iron Man comics?
Uh-huh.
Do you want to learn more about Iron Man's downward spiral from alcoholism, fear of commitment, and feelings of inferiority, leading the egomaniac into a life of misery?
What?
Then listen to the Invincible Iron Cast Classics Edition and see Tony Stark go from genius, billionaire, playboy philanthropist to genius, billionaire, playboy philanthropist. With awesome weaponized armor! Relive classic stories like Demon in a Bottle, Armor Wars, Doom Quest, and more, hosted by me, Mike Staley. So how about it, kids? Do you want to listen to the Invincible Iron Cast?
Uh-huh.
Well, too bad. You need to do your homework.
Oh.
The Invincible Iron Cast Classics Edition on iTunes or at Invincible